It's so cool inside there.
Now, as many of you will know, if you're from if you're from Chatham, that this was Chatham Collegiate Institute. In fact, it's the site over there where those trees are across the driveway was the site of Chatham's very first high school in the 1850s, 1854, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's always been a school on this site. The second school was over in that corner. And then the last school was built here in 1937, I believe. So there's always been a high school on this site, or a school of some sort on this site. Now, I have some familiarity with the school because this is where I ended my career. I was the last vice principal here at Chatham Collegiate. So during that time, I picked up some stories. As we said, schools, any place that has a great deal of history to it, often has some kind of spiritual contact with it. Now, I'll tell you, one was Mrs. Norma Stevens, a legend. She was an English teacher. She was on the third floor down the hallway. And she taught all her life, never missed a day of school. Anybody have Norma Stevens as a teacher? Excellent. I thought they might. So she was a wonderful woman, wasn't she? From what I hear. I hear she was strict, but she was wonderful.
They're not saying.
They're not saying. Well, see, they probably weren't English teachers, so they're still scared of her.
Yeah, they're still scared of her.
So anyways, she taught all of her life here, probably never missed a day. Then when she retired, she was going to travel. Well, the summer that she retired, she went to Europe. And they were driving with a couple other retired teachers, and I believe either she or somebody else in the car fell asleep at the wheel, and it was her, and she was killed. You know, teach all your life and then look forward to retirement, and then you die. Anyway, sad story. But some people feel that she's never left CCI. Some people can hear the jingling of the keys going down the hallway, which she always used to do, and the click, click, click of high heels, because in the 1950s you had to wear high heels if you were teaching, right? You wouldn't want to be wearing some low-cut shoes. You'd look kind of disrespectful. So anyways, the story is that Norma Stevens, and my wife taught here as well. In fact, she had Norma Stevens' position. She was head of English. And so she often came into the school at night. And so on more than one occasion, somebody would say, "Oh, I hear you were in school last night, Lisa." She'd say, "No." They said, "No, I heard you. I heard you walking down the hallway. And I heard you jingling your keys like you always do to get in your room." And Lisa would say, "No, I wasn't there." And that was in part of Norma Stevens. Now, it gets even weirder. In the last few years that the school was open, the cafeteria staff who would arrive here early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, and they would report on more than one occasion seeing a girl come to the door of the cafeteria and look in. And they would see her and they'd say, "No, dear, the cafeteria doesn't open until 8 o'clock. You'll have to leave." And then they'd turn back, and then they turn, gone, disappeared. They saw her so often that they were able to go. We kept all of the CCI yearbooks, even with the Pickards, I bet, are still in those yearbooks, in the library. And they went through the yearbooks from the 1950s, and they found her. She was a girl in grade 9, because they knew she was from the 1950s, they thought, after they saw her a number of times, because she wasn't dressed like a modern kid. She was dressed like somebody from the 1950s, with the dress and the sweater and things of that nature, and the glasses. So they were able to find her in the yearbook and identified her, and they found out that she was a grade 9 student who died during her first year here. She caught a disease, a fever or something, and she died. Now, they also saw, this cafeteria staff must be extremely psychic, they also saw a young boy who was dressed in more modern clothes coming and visiting here. And I know who he was because he was before I came here to CCI, he was over at McGregor. And unfortunately, he had a very troubled life and he committed suicide. But from their description and from me showing them the McGregor yearbook, they were able to identify that it was that young lad who came here from McGregor because he wanted to have a new start, and they saw him as well. Now, was it because there were all sorts of stories about CCI closing and there was all sorts of disruption after all this? I'm not sure. But it could very well be. But they certainly believe they saw it, and they were certainly no nonsense. And now, of course, it is. I believe it's a Muslim school,
Yes.
and some of the students live here, and others live at a house. I think we're going to go by tonight as well for the residents. And it's nice to see that this isn't torn down like so many other places in Chatham-Kent, right? So it's nice they're preserving the school, and it looks like they're really looking after it, and they're a real positive addition to this community and to Chatham-Kent as a whole. And it's so nice to see that school that's been here for so long is not being torn down.